my good friend turned bandit Gowon, is planning there is purely to get a group of men round the oil terminal and then to shake the managers of the oil companies by the scruff of the neck and demand money.
But at the end of it, I don't want to go because these things are all, the tapes are available, the records are there. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago I saw a set of the records again. The transcripts are available. But we talked about the Nigerian situation, and certainly at the end everybody says, oh, you told them this, you did that. The fact was that our case was so clear that I actually believe at the end of Aburi that the problem was not Gowon, but probably some ambassadors in Lagos who were pressing for something else. Because we understood each other. We agreed on every single point. The drafting was, in fact, my chief secretary with 2 other chief secretaries from the other side. They said, no, and drafted and agreed. We looked at it, we agreed. General Ankara read over the whole report again to us at the end, asked us if we wanted to amend anything. No. At the end of all that, the position was so good that actually Ankara drove Jack, Gowon and myself to the airport. Jack was sitting on his left, I was sitting on his right. He was in the middle. And in the course of that journey, at a point, General Ankara shook his head and said, oh, thank you. Thank you. If only we can go on like this, everything would be all right. I believe I was the one. As I do now from time to time, I go for the dramatic. Suddenly I picked up Gowon's hand, put it on Ankara's lap, brought my other hand, placed it on it, and I said, General, sir, hold us together, I want to say something. So General Ankara put his hand on top of the 2 hands, and I said, General, I want to assure you that I am totally satisfied with everything we said. I will even go further and say to you something I did not say at the conference, and that is that once we have implemented everything we have said, I would ask you for one favor and one favor only, and that would be to be the one to propose Jack Gowon as a head of state of Nigeria.
Let the Biafran people stay on their own. Let the Yorubas, if they want to align with the Northerners, like they said, that they prefer to live with the Fulani people, the Yorubas, than to live with the Igbo people. It's as simple as that. It's a narrative. If you ask Mike Arnold, he will tell you that Nigerian Biafran war was a jihad war. So what is controversial about the request of Biafra being a sovereign nation? I think it is within the United Nations right that every human being, everybody, every tribe have the right to seek for self-determination, where there is existential threat. Unfortunately, Gowon has again exposed his calamity. That he is not qualified to be the Nigerian head of state at that time. And he is not even cerebral enough. And that is why Ojukwu dwarfed him. And generations to come, Biafrans will continue to dwarf him till Jesus Christ comes.
Onyezi, Yakubu Gowon, former head of state, have said that Ojukwu lied about Aburi Accord, that Ojukwu was smuggling arms and ammunition into East during when the peace talk was going on, that he was clearly openly, talking about peace talks and all of the rest, but behind the bars he was smuggling arms into East, and that they never agreed on separation of Biafra in Aburi Accord, that Ojukwu actually lied. So he came out and was now telling people that they agreed about Biafra going their separate ways. So which means Ojukwu was already prepared for confrontation and war. What is your take to this?
Ojukwu was not prepared for confrontation and war. And that is the truth. And we needed to ask Gowon, what was the agreement? What happened in Aburi? Was Biafra discussed in Aburi? I think that's the question. You can see the autobiography has already been condemned by people because it is a fractured sensibility of the truth. And he deliberately justified his own illiteracy over what actually took place in Aburi. General Ankara, who was the head of that committee in a local place called Aburi in Ghana, has his own copy of that agreement. Gowon has been silent over the years. Now that he's facing the consequences of manipulation, and you can see the so-called Nigeria, or the Fulani he fought for, had decimated his own people. Ever since the killing has been taking place in the Middle Belt, right there in his hometown, has Gowon come out to condemn it. Now back to the reality on ground. Just like how they bandied that the 1966 coup was an Igbo coup. The one that was carried out by IBB was not labeled a northern coup. The one that was carried out by Buhari was not labeled a northern coup. Something that was supposed to be a pure military affair led to the death of the first military head of state. The consequences of criminality of Gowon has now been brought to the limelight. I remember saying, and I remember them saying also, that all the generals that fought for Biafra Nigerian war will be compensated with the presidency. And go and look at all of them. All of them have enjoyed presidency to the extent the person that murdered the first military head of state, General Agui Ironsi, donated 1 billion because they saw it as an opportunity to loot and lay siege on the resources of Biafra. They now fabricated that the Aburi agreement was something that was too much for Gowon to have conceded and placed his signature on that. But let me tell you, there was no time Ojukwu went to Aburi to discuss Biafra. Have you heard it anywhere in the history book or anywhere? Ojukwu never went there to discuss Biafra. What Ojukwu went there is to stop the killing that was going on. The killing that started in 1943 became significant in 1953. In 1966 or thereabout, it turned to a full-blown war. When Ojukwu brought in those arms, he is claiming we are the Igbo people using those arms as at that time to kill people the way the Northerners were killing Igbos in the north. And why was those weapons not used during the Nigerian Biafra war, since Ojukwu, we are stockpiling arms? In Makurdi, the first assault by the Biafran soldiers and commandos was done with bare hand. When Gowon declared police action on Biafra, Ojukwu never, maybe too much sophisticated, too much intelligent. The one was just an ordinary illiterate, not schooled properly. He would have understood what transpired there, because what he is saying now has ignited another front of reminding that the ceasefire that General Philip Effiong entered has not been laid down properly. Though the gun was laid down, but the battle continues, and that's what Gowon's book is just reminding everybody now. But look at what the IBB also said in that regard. He warned the Northerners immediately after that book that was published that Nigeria is heading towards total collapse. Why would they not ask Gowon why he is silent? The people he fought for denied him and now are killing his people. And that's why a lot of people said that the 1966 coup was a counter coup to stop the fourth installment or coming in of the first jihadist government in Nigeria. An Igbo man, Chukwu Makadina Nzog, frustrated that effort using what is supposed to be called mutiny, because it was not a coup. But Nigeria propaganda turned it to a coup. If there was a social media at that time, I don't think it would get to that level. So in that Aburi agreement, it's a very simple thing. Ojukwu proposed, because of the killing of the Igbos were not killing anybody in the north, but the Northerners were killing the Igbos. And the government are silent, just like what we saw in South Africa. There is xenophobia in South Africa. The president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is silent. They are there watching the police. The police, South African police are watching. I'm just giving you instances. South African disalive foreigners. What does that tell you about? The same thing was happening in Nigeria then. And Ojukwu said, no, I represent the Eastern region. Stop. Said no. The international community now set in, and they now went to Aburi. And inside that Aburi, they agreed that the Nigerian military will be decentralized. That is one. 2, there will be resource control. 3, they will run a confederate style of government to bring about peace. we are a situation nobody will be suspicious of anything. And they came back. Then at what point did Ojukwu started marketing Biafra? Ojukwu would have started marketing Biafra even before they went to Aburi. But was there anything like that?
No, he said, Gowon said, Ojukwu, after piling up the weapons, that he declared that the eastern region now has the strongest army in Black Africa. And then he also went ahead to say, eastern region can now negotiate based on the standpoint of strength. So which means that Ojukwu in his premeditated mind never wanted anything peace. So that was why he was bent on saying...
I think I've responded to that question.
Yes.
There was no predetermined agenda. Remember, the first military head of state of Nigeria was murdered, and he's an Igbo man. And there was no killing in the southern part of the country except in the north. And you are claiming that Ojukwu is armed. Why didn't he use those arms and fight Biafran war? Why would the Biafrans fight with their bare arms? So these are fabricated criminality, lies. To exonerate himself and put his unfortunate book on the side of defense of the real issue. Ojukwu never did that. Ojukwu never never claimed anything. It was during the war, when the war started, that Ojukwu started talking about. Of course, you have to talk big of your subjects who are defending yourself. Then, did the world now ask Gowon, how come about Decree 8? What led to Decree 8? What was the role of Philippines Asiodu? What was the role of the then Oba of Benin? What was the role of the top permanent secretaries in Lagos? What was the role of the British government as at that time? Did Harold Wilson actually call you and said, why have you ceded the resources of Nigeria to Biafrans, to Ojukwu? He said, me? How? Yes, it's confederation. Please, can Nigerians face the truth? That was how he came up. I've given so much. I'm telling you the facts. The Aburi agreement can be published now. If both of them signed that agreement, is it Ojukwu that first attacked? I'm asking you. Shall Ojukwu first attack him? That's the question you need to ask. Who declared, because you are the head of state, who now declared a military action? Why are you promulgating Decree 8? Why did you tamper with the core agreement of the Aburi Accord? What was Decree 8 doing in that agreement? Why did it take you so much? These are things that happened between February 5 and 6, 1966 or 67. I think 67 or thereabout. Why would it take you months? In that month, was Ojukwu bombing Nigeria? See, and that's why I'm telling you that, you know, Gowon should understand that at this point in time, whether he likes it or not, that Biafra has become a religion. Biafra has become a necessity. Biafra has become divinity. Biafra has become hope of Africa. Gowon destroyed Nigeria in Aburi, came back to Nigeria and slaughtered the unity of this country, and they blame it on Igbo people. And look at, okay, why haven't Gowon mentioned such in series of the interviews he has conducted? He has never mentioned anything like that, because there would say blame. You've caused it. Yes, he would have mentioned in one of the, he has granted so many interviews where he said it's because of the oil they went to war, where he said all manner of things. Because the Igbos are inflation, Igbos are dominating, no, we can't continue to them. If they allow them, they become the most powerful tribe in Africa. We need to bring them down. Then, whose agenda are you actually following? Of course, Uthman stand for you. And you know, at that point in time, the structure of the North was centered on Tafawa Balewa and the rest of them who said that, you know, a middle belt is not a stepping stone to conquer the entire South. These are statements of facts. That what Gowon ran into was different from what was agreed in Aburi. They now agreed secretly that it is going to be a Muslim-Christian war and the whole Arab war. Look at Obasanjo. Go and read Obasanjo's book. Read Nzogu, read Philip Effiong, read all these books. You can never see such a thing that Ojukwu had a premeditated agenda. Even some of the ones that the Yorubas wrote, you can never see such a thing. The one IBB wrote, and that's why IBB is angry. That with this book, there's nothing like Nigeria anymore, that Nigeria should break up. He told the Northerners a few days after this book was published. These are facts and people that know the truth and all that. And since then, what has changed? What has happened? So it was a clear call. Okay, why did the British Prime Minister at that time, Wilson Harold, who was British Prime Minister as at the time we had Nigeria Biafra war, what did he say? He said if he allowed them, nobody helped Biafra. Biafra became something else during the war. They manufactured their own gun. They manufactured, and I think at that point, the Ojukwu had that pride, you know, of saying that we have the greatest army. And of course, that's the fact. We fought with that white man's input. We invented a midst of necessity. We became the giant and the reference point of the black man's war in the continent to date.
So on this standpoint now, you are of the opinion now that Biafra must come with all of this revelation.
Nigeria has been de-amalgamated since 2014. And the world should not pretend over it. I repeat, Nigeria has been de-amalgamated, have ceased to be a nation since 2014. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. The world is just pretentiously, and those who are called leaders today does not even believe in one Nigeria. And you can see the handwriting clearly written on the wall. Today, massive slaughtering is going on in almost all the region. But even those that said they hate Igbos regretted fighting the Igbo people. Now, I ask you, who is putting this camera on my face? Who is now the enemy of Nigeria? Is it the Igbo people? Those are the questions that is historical, that Nigeria can never answer the Biafran question. Now, the world is pretending over it because they feel it is a black man's world. But I can tell you that one day, either by omission or by commission, the restoration of the first Jewish black nation will take place. And that nation will be called Biafra. And look at it. They are even do you know how many times have they changed Nigerian national anthem? They want to change the Nigerian name again. From there, they want to change this. They don't want to change this. They are fighting themselves over unity when they know that Nigeria has already been balkanized. There's no citizen in Nigeria.